Hey guys, Darren Kelly, Coach of Wiser Pods, and welcome back to another episode of Captains. Heading into round 23, 2 more weeks to go. So let's try and finish off 2025 with a bang. But before we get into captains, again, I always like to just double check how I went on the weekends. Not terrible, 196 in the week is not the best. Really, what hurt me was just having Holmes so high. He just absolutely shut the bed after getting held the ball. But overall, pretty happy with how the captains went. You know, everyone else was over 115, couple over 120, and even a 135, and they just should have had him a bit higher up, which is a bit unfortunate. But that still does mean I am fifth overall in the captains challenge. So, gonna need something pretty big to get me up the ladder. I'm nearly 300 points behind Fantasy Nut there, so gonna need something pretty big final 2 weeks to catch up. But hopefully we can at least hold up and even hopefully sneak into top three would be nice. But we'll see how we go. So I think there's a lot of good captain options this week. Very good captain's option this week. I just realized that you can see what you shouldn't be able to. Yeah, so a lot of good captain's options this week, I think. We've got a good couple early ones. Obviously, St Kilda do play Essendon Friday night, so you're going to be able to get a good early VC down. Because that's something else I wanted to mention is that make sure you're checking where your bench loops are. Obviously, a lot of us have been using Boyd as our captain loop for majority of the season, but he plays the first game, so you're not going to be able to use him this time around. So just double check that you do have some other red loops and red players throughout the remaining of the weekend, so you can VC and C. Otherwise, you'll have to just go with a straight C. So just be aware of that. But number one captain this week is none other than Nasiah Wanganeen Milera. This man is just in some ripping form with how he's been travelling. And he scored a 113 against Essendon earlier in the year, and this is when he was playing as a halfbacker. He's now obviously moved into a full-time mid role. Essendon are the third easiest for inside mids at this stage, plus really good for designated kick-out players as well, because he does like to go into the back half and get a few plus sixes every now and then. We've seen some amazing scores against Essendon in some recent times. I've mentioned them multiple times, like just some notable ones. Bontempelli went 146, Tim Taranto 132, and Caleb Strong with 137. So they definitely don't mind giving up some big ceilings. So I definitely could see Nasiah getting some big ceiling here. I don't see any sort of tag coming his way in this one either. They do have a Dersma who I think is still no, not Dersma, a Durham who is playing, but he hasn't been doing any tags of recent. So fingers crossed that doesn't come through, and I just think Nasiah can get the job done for us as a decent VC option on a Friday night. He's well up there in most people's captains. The only slight flag I had with him was that this is his second worst team that he has scored against in his history as a fantasy player. He's played them 4 times with scores of 71, 79, 62, and the latest one was that 113. So doesn't absolutely love these guys, but I think now he's in a different role. He's in some ripping form, just looking at what he's done recently has just been elite. One of the best matchups. So I just think back in someone that has been averaging 113 for the year now, and he just can get the job done for a big ceiling. Number two is probably a little bit more unique. As I said, I'm trying to rise up the ranks a little bit, but I love the likes of Harry Sheasel this weekend up against Richmond. Obviously, we know how good of a matchup they are for both midfielders and designated kick-out players. Sheasel's actually been moving into the midfield a lot more. He's played 70% CBAs in the last 2 games, so I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him. He's super consistent, always hitting those tons, so I think he's a pretty safe one at number 2 and can find a bit of a ceiling. He also does love playing against Richmond. He averages 110 against them across his career. Yes, it's only 3 matches, and we know how good he has been in his history. But yeah, expecting another decent one for him. The other thing that I also found was that this is obviously at Ninja Stadium. Sheasel hasn't dropped below a ton in his last 5 adventures to Ninja Stadium. So he loves playing there, and I think he can get the job done as an inside mid, can float back and take a couple plus sixes, and could even possibly sneak forward and kick a couple goals. We know how good this player is. He's just going to get the job done. Richmond have give up given up plenty of big scores to some midfielders as well. Nick Dacos with a 146, even another Windhager with a 133 last weekend as well. So they don't seem to tag, and they don't seem to care too much when someone's getting a lot of the ball. So I'm hoping that's going to be Harry Sheezel this weekend as a decent captain option. He plays on Sunday, so you do have a bit of time to decide for that one. Number 3 is another big body midfielder, and that is Marcus Bontempelli. This man is in some flying form at the moment with 140s, 160s. He's just absolutely getting it done, and he comes up against West Coast, which is the number 2 easiest matchup for inside mids at the moment. We've seen big scores, like I've said. Jordan Dawson just last weekend went 147, so he just got in there and got it done. Bailey Smith was also a 147 not too long ago. Nick Dacos 137, and the likes of plenty of 120. So this should be theoretically a minimum 120 from Bontempelli here. He also went 103 against them last time they played out, which was last year, obviously. They haven't played so far this year, and Bontempelli did miss a fair portion of the start of the season. This is also his 4th best team that he scores against. So he has a really good history against West Coast in his career, and he scored 140 and 135 previously. So expecting a pretty decent one. I'm just tossing up whether I go Sheezel or do I go with a safer Bontempelli, who I think a lot more people will be going into this weekend. So that's the top 3. Number 4, I've had to throw Marshall. He was higher up on this list, but just with the concern of St Kilda bringing in an additional ruckman, who I expect to play full forward, just means that they have the flexibility to throw that ruckman into the ruck, and then Marshall could sit forward. So for those sort of reasons, that's why he's further down. If I do hear something that they're going to throw Roll Marshall forward a lot more, he will just be wiped off my top 5 completely. So just stay tuned with the news for that one. I'm not expecting it to come true, but something that you can be aware of. He scored a 135 against Essendon earlier in the year, I believe, and he's in some ripping form. He's got a 135 and a 142 in his last 2, so he's absolutely killing it. And he scored four times over 140 so far this season. So this man knows how to find a ceiling, so could be a well and truly good VC. If you want to back him in instead of Nasiah, I definitely wouldn't hate it. And we've seen some very good scores against the likes of Todd Goldstein, obviously retirement age. So we saw Brodie Grundy go with a 150 with 39 touches. So this could be absolutely massive for Rowan Marshall if he plays the right role. So should theoretically be a bit high, but there's some concerns there. So I put him down a little bit lower. And 5th and finally in this captain's list, I've got Tim English just to round out the top 5. He's going up against the likes of Flynn and Bailey Williams. I expect, obviously, teams will be trimmed tomorrow night, but expecting him to go up against those 2, and that should be a decent 110 to 120 for him. In that matchup, he scored a 98 previously, but previous to that score, when it wasn't just Bailey Williams, he scored a 146 and a 132. So he does not mind this matchup whatsoever. But just with my concern with English is if it was just Bailey Williams, which it shouldn't be this weekend, the ceiling has been pretty low. The highest score that has been against Bailey Williams has been a 113 with Max Gawn. Besides, it's all been small tons. So it's something to just be aware of if something were to come through tomorrow night when teams get rounded out. If Matt Flynn's dropped out and Bailey Williams is a solo ruck, then I'd seriously consider moving off of Tim English as a stable captain, because I just don't see the ceiling there. I don't think it's going to have a massive ceiling. So that is my top 5 so far. I think it's all pretty similar names that a lot of people are looking at, just in different order, I think. A couple others that I was considering. Number 6, I had the likes of Jordan Dawson. He's another one, unfortunately, to miss out again. I missed out on him last week. I'm missing out on him this week. He goes up against Collingwood. Again, they have been giving up a few more points recently in the last 5. We've seen Caleb Sarong go 123, Hugh McCluggage go 119, and Matt Rowell go 140. So they have been giving up a fair few points for inside mids, as they have been struggling in terms of their football ability at the moment. But Jordan Dawson is just absolutely killing it. Obviously, off that 147 last weekend, he scored a 138 against Collingwood early in the year, so he doesn't mind this matchup. Last four, he's gone 110 plus. So yeah, he's just absolutely getting it done. And he's got last four times he has played Collingwood, he's gone 110 plus with scores of 112, 172, and a 117. So yeah, since he's transitioned to this midfield role, he's been putting up some elite numbers against Collingwood, and obviously he's got some great tackling numbers at the moment. So if it were to be tight and contested, he would get in there and get it done for his team and lead from the front. So I definitely tried to fit him in my top five, but I just couldn't at this stage because there's too many variables, and I think these guys up here are more of a chance to have big ceilings. Number 7, I did have Max Gawn, though. He's going up against Lloyd Meek, who is the 5th easiest matchup for Ruckmans at the moment. From major Ruckman, we've seen Team English go 139 and Royal Marshall go 140 against him. Plus, also you got Jordan Sweet also went 130 plus against him as well. So he is quite an easy ruckman to score against. So I'm expecting Max Gawn to get the job done. But he's just not been finding that ceiling recently. He's come off this tough run a couple of weekends ago, and he's just been hitting these 110 to 120s, but not really hitting that 130 plus. So for that sort of reason, he does miss out on my top 5 at this stage. But he did also go 113 against Meek earlier in the year. So that's just something to be aware of. Number 8, I did have Tristan Cherry. He's coming off the back of 2 150 pluses against Nankervis, but his form has just been super down at the moment. Hasn't hit 1 ton since he's hit one ton since round 11, so he's just well down on form and quietly getting super cheap for us next year if it's something that we wanted to look at. So yeah, he's deservingly down there as a bit of a unique option if you're looking at that one. Number 9, I had the likes of Sinclair. He obviously off the back of that 146 last week, and he definitely needs to be mentioned. Up against Essendon, who are the second defense designated kick-up players to score against. We've seen the likes of Blakey, Whitfield, Jeffrey, Clark, and Doherty all go 110 plus against them, being that main distributor off halfback. Jeffrey, you can probably question a little bit, but yeah, I'm expecting a 110 plus from Sinclair here. So if you don't have him, it's definitely a good trade target. And to round out my top 10, I did throw in Sam Darcy as well up against West Coast, expecting a 110 from him as well, kicking hopefully a couple, 4 or 5, if not closer to 10, as we know he can do. So yeah, that rounds up my top 10. If you wanted to have a bit of a snipe at some stage, but you will be rolling into him as a C option, unfortunately, being the last game of the round. So would be a tough one to go through. A couple others I didn't mention, Bailey Smith obviously has been super stable all season, averaging 117, but just the concern with obviously potential tag with up against Sydney. They're a super tough matchup. I just wanted to avoid him at all costs in my top 10, even though I thoroughly believe that the tag will go to the likes of Max Holmes, because I think he's more damaging by foot than what Williams is. So yeah, that's just where I think of that one. Nick Dacos is just too injured at the moment. He's got that hip component that's really showing in his time on ground, so I'm just not touching him. Noah Anderson, just the tag concern is enough to flag me off, and that GWS are a tough matchup, so I'm not seeing him potentially get 35 plus touches, which is what he's going to need to get these big ceiling scores, so just a no from me. Josh Dunkley obviously could go absolutely massive, as he has been doing in the last 5 weeks, but just with it's a tough one to read for me. I can't back it in to be part of my captains just yet. He's hurt me too much at this stage. Zach Butters is getting absolutely clamped, so I would not be touching him. He'll put up a dirty 30 for you. Jeremy Cameron, very similar, would not be going there. I got against Sydney. McKirch is definitely someone that I considered, but just given that we haven't seen that massive ceiling from him just yet, so I just wouldn't consider it. I definitely like the likes of Sheasel over McKirch at this stage. So that's probably getting into some unique areas, but yeah, that's where my captains sit at this stage. So please let me know down below what you guys are doing. But besides that, I probably should have told you what I'm doing. I'm probably going to be rolling with Messiah as a VC tomorrow night. And then I'm really tossing up between Shees or Upon later in the weekend. So I'll toss up that throughout the stage, but we'll see. Hopefully Nasai just gets it done for me tomorrow night and I don't have to worry about it. So yeah, again, please let me know what your guys are doing down below and any final questions that you may have for the round. But besides that, I will see you next week. Have a good weekend. Cheers.